Is using AI or any type of leverage in business cheating or bad? Well, this video isn't scripted. I just had this thought on the top of my head, so everything that I talk about is gonna be from my experience. It's all gonna be genuine, so stick to the end. But going back to the topic, for the longest time ever, I thought that using AI or automations for my business, which is web design, and I also do content creation for Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube now. I thought that using AI for any part of the process or any automation was cheating in some way. Or I guess that because I wasn't doing the work, I wasn't gonna be deserving of the result. There are a lot of things going through my head and a lot of reasons. And I then thought to myself, what if using automations is actually good? What if these thoughts that I'm having is instilled in me by school, by societal norms, by expectations of others? And I understood that yes, it is, because going back to school, what were we always taught? That when you go online for answers or go online for help, when you ask a classmate, it's cheating. That if you do not do something by yourself, you're cheating. And then the consequences of that were getting a bad grade, which often led to, arguments at home. But what I think is really wrong with that is because they're not teaching us the right way. What they should be teaching kids is that cheating, there's such thing as cheating, but it's not in the way that they explain it. When you go online for help, when you ask classmates for answers, when you go to Google for examples, that is not cheating. That is called speeding up the process, because when you have a textbook of 300-400 pages and you're not sure on which page your answer is, and you have to read through 10-20 pages to find an answer, it is much easier to go to Google and ask for it. Now, with time, teachers have gotten more and more used to it, but still there's a lot of things that they instill in us, they and also society, that is just wrong. Another thing was asking other people for help was considered cheating, but asking other people for help is something that you're gonna have to do a lot during your lifetime. Now, I'm only 19, but even in my 19 years of life, I've understood that asking for help is crucial if you want to get anywhere in life, because here's the thing: to get to the next level of life, you're gonna need help from people who have already gotten there. And so you're always gonna need to ask for help for some things. And being alone is never gonna be the answer to anything. And school and society has taught us that you have to do everything by yourself, that is the right way, but that is not. A lone wolf will never go long. A lone wolf will not get to the end, because the pack is just gonna eat it alive. A pack is always gonna win. You have to have people by your side, and you have to ask for help. Now, going back to the automations, I started using automations for my outreach process about, I want to say, 2 to 3 months ago. And the impact it has had on my time, on my business, is tremendous, because before, what I used to do for outreach is go to Google, manually scrape for leads, which would take me hours at a time. I would open up Google Sheets and just start scraping away from Google Maps. And this process would take me 2 hours, 3 hours to get 100 leads. And then I'd get a response maybe from none of them. And then sometimes I'd get a response from 1 or 2 of them. Close rates would be horrible. So it was a lot of manual work. And then I would individually go and email those people or call those people. Now I still do cold calls individually. That's still a part of my process. I think everyone should do cold calls. AI has not gotten to a point where it can replace a human on cold calls, but other things such as messaging, emailing, DMing, automating these things it just does wonders for your business, trust me, because when I used to spend 4 hours on scraping leads and doing outreach manually, it gets done in 20 minutes, if not less. And the first time I did this, it blew my mind, I'll be honest. The first time I ever tried AI automations for my outreach system, it cut my outreaching and lead scraping time from 4 hours to 20 minutes, and in those 20 minutes I was able to outreach to about 200 new people, which was crazy at the time because I've never done this. And also I started automating my lead scraping. I started using a automating system to get more leads from Google, which also has done wonders. Now with just a click, in about 2 to 3 minutes I get up to 1,000 leads from Google, which is uncomparable to what it was before. So I do want to suggest that anybody who has a business tries to automate it in some way. There's a lot of systems that do that. You can also DM me on Instagram. I can help you out. I can lay the tools I use. I'll put my Instagram handle in the video and also down in the description. But there's a lot of things that you can do. And so if you're a business owner, automate everything. Anything that you can automate, do it. Going to web design, I do web design. I did not know that you can use AI to automate any part of the web design. I already know that AI could build websites, but I never use it because first, AI doesn't really build good websites. It just looks good from the outside, but when you really get into it, you can't do much with it. Prompting is only gonna take you so far. If you really want truly good websites, you have to do it by yourself. You have to make them by yourself. But other processes like building the sitemap, building wireframes, these are all things that AI just makes it really easy. And going back to the mindset shift, it really did change my mindset, because now when I look back at it, it's amazing how manipulative we are as humans and how societal norms can manipulate us to stay where we are and not move forward in our lives. But remember, any type of leverage you can use, you have to use it, because you can either be the hunter or the prey. And you can also be a bad hunter. There's also a difference in that. You can be a prey where you listen to society, where you listen to everyone, and you just go by what other people tell you. You just look at what most people are doing and do that. And for those people, some will survive and they will live a semi-happy life, and then others will just get eaten alive by the people who are actively hunting. And you can also be a bad hunter. There's also such things as that, where you're not necessarily a prey, but you're also not a hunter. You're somewhere in between, and in my opinion, that's the worst place you can be, because you are probably the most miserable when you're a bad hunter, because you can't catch proper prey, and you might catch something once in a while, right? And then might give you the joy of catching something with your own hands, or and these are all analogies, but you're not gonna have those constant wins, and you're gonna be stagnant most of the time. And being stuck in the same place is probably the worst thing ever, because we as humans, we want to grow, we want to progress, and being stuck in the same place is probably the worst thing that can be done to us. And so you have to really be careful if you want to become a hunter. First of all, work on yourself, have good tools, and make sure you leverage those tools. And then be wary. You don't just want to work hard, you want to also work on the right things. And this is also where automation comes in, because you can automate the processes that can be automated, and then by just doing that, you narrow the things that you have to do by a lot, because now you have so much more time. So before, if you had 10 things to do in your list, now you have 8 or 7. So now you can choose from those 8 or 7 which ones are gonna push you forward the most. And this is really important, because you have to choose the things that are gonna drive your business. And so be wary of those things. If you want to be a hunter, be a good one, because a bad hunter is going to be more miserable than a prey. You just are. And so if you take anything from this video, use leverage any way you can, because the world is unfair. You are always going to have competition. And trust me, if you do not use leverage and you think that it's cheating in some way, your competitors are going to use those leverages. And they're not going to look at it as cheating, they're going to look at it as being smarter and getting more ahead than you, and you're going to be left behind. So leverage, leverage, leverage as much as you can. And another thing, press some buttons down below, because it really helps. Subscribe, like, share, and I will see you guys on another video.